execute the whole thing. Oh, this node doesn't work. All right, and let's execute this next one. Oh, this one doesn't work. So that's been interesting and fun. But AI, I think that's part of the thing that actually makes AI a little bit more addictive in a way, because it's almost like gambling, right? You got to pull the lever and hope that it's going to work. And almost, I wonder if we would be as interested in AI if it worked all the time, or is there a little bit, I feel like this in myself, where like I am working on AI and automation because it's not always, there's that reward when it does work.
Dopamine. Yeah, I mean, it's true. What you're saying. They're going to have to build a psychology around this, the awareness of at what point does the addiction doesn't pay off, and what time does it? And it's true. The challenge of all this is mostly the reason I'm here, but I know that's the case psychologically, if I'm honest. But there's no question that if you miss this AI revolution, you will have missed the biggest turning point in our industrial history. I mean, I've been around for a few of the big ones, and I'm not missing this one, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I feel like, at various points, I was there in the changes, right? But I wasn't like, holding on or like getting as involved as I was supposed to, right? Like when I was a little bit young for it, but like when websites started, right? When it was like, even back at that point in time, like, hey, we have websites, and this Google thing came around, and there was SEO, and I was like dabbling, but didn't go all in on it, right? And it's like, well, it turns out websites are a big deal, right? And so is SEO. And then the same thing with YouTube. Right. I was working at a studio, and we were doing digital video, and this was back when YouTube was still like, there weren't really influencers. There was like a few channels that had like millions of subscribers, but it wasn't what it was today. And we had a plan to build this YouTube channel that was going to do product reviews. And looking at it now, it's like, yeah, man, if we had actually done that channel, I'd have all kinds of passive income off of that channel.
Oh, for sure.
If I had gotten in when people weren't really doing much YouTube, and built out a channel then, and just like, hey, this is my, side project. I'll just like do this for a few years, see what happens. It would probably be right. And then the same thing, with influencer marketing and that whole thing, I got in on it. I was working with a company, but wasn't really my own thing. And then also like crypto, right? Like I've gotten much more interested in crypto now, but I mean, there was a point in time when we all could have bought Bitcoin for $1, and and so. But I think with all those, there are it sounds good. It's like, oh man, I wish I just did this and then I'd be rich now. It's like, yeah, I mean, you also have to do it right? And you have to stick, and you have to, keep going and making sure it all makes sense. And, so it sounds good that like, yeah, I wish I just invested in Bitcoin. But then you see these people who like invested in Bitcoin, don't know where their wallet is, and there's like
we hear those stories. And I bought in at 648.
That's not bad.
And I'm going to tell you something. I wrote it up and I sold it off when it got to 17 a little bit. I didn't sell it all. And I rode the next wave and I sold it. I paid bills for 7 years.
It's off your Bitcoin?
Yeah, and I wish I was still holding some today, and I liquidated almost all of it. But man, did it do me a service. I mean, I'm sure I was 50 to 75x, and I knew it. I knew what I had, and I just wish I would have kept it all. I knew that it was going to go to 50,000. I never thought it would make it to 100, in my lifetime, but I expect it to go to 1 million in my lifetime.
Yeah, no, I could see that. I mean, 1 million in your life. I mean, 1 million's probably in the next decade or something like that, right? I think that it'll probably, I mean, it all just depends on all of these external factors. But, I know that some people think Bitcoin is fake money, or it's all going to zero. It's like, yeah, man, it's really not all going to zero at this point. Like
Nope.
it has way too much
Nope.
infrastructure and buy-in on it. And then, you know, it is one of these things where it's like, you know, it has its flaws, just like AI. You know, they have the same criticisms against crypto and AI. You know, it uses up too much energy, right? It's too much electricity for these things. Like, who cares? These aren't even all that good to begin with. And I think that that is always short-sighted and not really looking at the full picture. Like, if you looked at like computers, when they first developed computers, they would talk about like a computer was the size of a building, right? And was gigantic. And then if you were to tell somebody, well, you know, in the future, everyone's going to have a computer that's 1 billion times more powerful than this in their hand, you'd be like, think of the energy, right? Like, how are we ever going to be able to power, you know, 1 billion computers that are 1 billion times as strong as this one computer that's inside of a building right now? This is the size of a building. And so,
not by rare earths. I don't think rare earths are going to power it. I think that we're going to, you know, because we're highly dependent on all these minings, and we only have 0.01% of what we need to power where we're headed when it comes to the silvers and platinums and all these things that are required. So I think it's going to come through some sort of a crystallized power source. Not to get Superman on you, but I fully see that happening, and we'll discover or synthesize a new way for a power source that will be highly condensed. So that's what I believe will happen. The combustive energy output will be delivered through another.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that we definitely need to find another energy source. You know, welcome to AI and energy source talk today, everybody. But, you know, I think that it is relevant, again, to AI, right? Where it's like, if you look at one of the biggest criticisms is the energy that it uses up. And they'll be like, well, you know, all the AI in the world used up, you know, the same amount of power as New York City, or something like that. And it's like, yeah, I mean, like AI, and I think that part of the problem, and I don't know how this factors in, is that too many people think that ChatGPT, that's AI. Like that's the sum total of AI in the entire world, right? Where it's like, no, I mean, really, you know, most of the apps on your phone are using AI. You know, like AI is all over the place. It's not just ChatGPT. It's doing all of these different functions. And fairly soon, it's going to be like, well, you know, to power all the computing in the entire world, we need the power of New York City. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure you do, right? Like it's, you know, that's how all this stuff is being run. Of course, you need, you know, a lot of power to run all of this stuff. But as you're saying, like, I think that one, it's going to get cheaper and cheaper to just run these AI models as the hardware expands. And then two, we do really need to figure out another energy source besides just fossil fuels. And this is where, you know, some of the other countries, I know that China is really going in on renewable energy. Right.
Very advanced.
Yeah. And that is possibly going to be, you know, we're really, I know that I guess the one thing they do want us to become is an AI superpower, which I totally agree with. However, some of the, you know, things that are required for that, like cutting the research budget in America, is not going to help out in that field, you know. And so I think that they need to, and if they are going to just increase the AI research, I guess that's, you know, something. But I know that they've been, because like AI is associated with like all of these sciences and even like neuroscience, and there are, you know, a lot of that funding got slashed. You know, a lot of the AI advancements come from universities. You know, are we going to start enabling them and giving them the resources that they need?
Good analogy over there, and I agree.
Yep. Okay, so today, besides talking about America's AI policy and our what would you say, our energy needs. So today we're going to do vibe coding. We're getting back to our Instagram bot. It's been almost a month since we've worked on this project, but let's get back to it. I'll give a review for everybody. We'll go in and we'll say hi to all our new people, and then we'll do basically a review of this. And then from now on, I think roughly it'll probably be Tuesdays will be GitHub Copilot, YouTube content generator, and then Fridays will be Instagram auto commenter, through Claude vibe coding. But right now, as I'm trying to get, yeah, okay, so I'm going to need to do a new chat. My Claude chat just crapped out on me. And then yesterday, if you were here, we were doing our N8N newsletter generator, ran into some issues, OAs with that. I am going to get at least the level where we're at with that workflow. I'm going to work out all the bugs on that one. And then on Monday, if you're here, I'll give an updated workflow for people to try out and mess around with and do what they want with. But then we will still continue with that. The next step with that one, if we can get all these pieces to work, is to add a image generator, to add an image to the newsletter. And then from there, we'll start getting it HTML formatted properly and distributed through MailChimp is what I'll start with. And then you can change it out to whatever newsletter service you have. That shouldn't be that big of a deal. If you have that workflow and then you're using the prompt to workflow system, it could probably be a pretty easy switch to get that node switched out. And then the final piece for that one is we will containerize and do an inexpensive hosting solution for that, and then just test that out. And then that'll be that N8N workflow. Okay, and then let's look at new people to the call, seeing a bunch of familiar avatars, but then I feel like, nope, that's a note taker, never mind. Chris Warner, are you new to the coaching calls into AI Profit Boardroom? You can turn on your mic or drop something in the chat. Ooh, no Chris Warner. Okay, Keith has been here. Steve Croppo. There we go.
How you doing, Jeff?
I'm good. Are you new?
I am brand new.
Brand new. Okay, great. Wonderful to have you. What inspired you to join AI Profit Boardroom and these coaching calls? What kind of AI are you interested in? What kind of tools are you into? What's up?
So I live in Vancouver, Canada, and
Gotcha.
I am in the financial industry. I do advanced estate planning, tax planning for business owners, and I know there's a better way to do my business through AI. And rather than being on the back end of it, I want to be on the front end of it. So I'm very interested in automation. I'm interested in how I can leverage AI for all aspects of my current business, but also other businesses that I can start fairly easily. I wouldn't say easily, but with AI, lower barrier of entry to create multiple income streams.
Yep. What are you doing for your AI? Are you using like N8N at all? Are you doing vibe coding? Have you started building any workflows or any like ways to make AI profitable for you?
So I did get I had a trial subscription for N8N, and I played around with it a little bit. I followed a couple of tutorials that I saw on YouTube, and then I saw this one. I thought it was interesting. So my subscription has for 14 days. My trial is gone now, but I think I'll make it a local N8N so I can do it for free. I think that's the way that it works. But no, I'm very, very, very new. I've been using, things like ChatGPT. I've got the paid version. I've got the full Gemini suite. So I've been looking at Google Notebook LM. I've done a lot of things with that. Google AI Studio, and then there's the other one, Anti-Gravity, which I've been looking at a little bit as well. So, just using all these powerful tools, just basically, I want to simplify my life and basically 100x my revenue without 100xing the amount of hours that I need to put into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all, the 100x, I would say if I were you, the goal would be like shoot for the moon, right? Where it's like 100x, but then also incrementally just try to get that 1.5x, that 2x here, that 3x there, that 5x there. And then anti-gravity, we are going to do a coaching call on that. That was just introduced to me this week. Looks like a great solution, potentially. All of them seem like a great solution until you actually use them, but it would make sense. And I do like that, just like the pricing plan on it, right? Where it is free to use. It has pretty good features for the free to use version of it. And, with any of this stuff, there is still some level of reasoning and technique and like structure that you need for it. But something like anti-gravity, can be, I can see really like onboarding more and more people into the vibe coding space.
Perfect. Well, I'm here to learn.
And then are there any like projects, like you're saying you want to do 100x, right? Like what kind of solutions are you looking at there? Do you want to do like content generation? Are you just trying to automate a lot of the processes for your work right now? Like what are some of the ways in which you're going to do this?
I think all of the above. Everything's just a little bit overwhelming right now. And what I wanted to do, the big thing about joining this is to get rid of all the noise and figure out where I can focus in on things. And again, going back to what you said, start with a 1.5. I totally agree with that. Start with something small, and everything that I've heard so far when I'm creating an automation, start out with something basic and then build from there, which is great. So I want to automate a lot of my processes, obviously, and that would be outbound lead generation, outbound marketing, using a variety of tools. And ultimately, what I would like to create is an end-to-end funnel system where I'm getting these leads outbound. It comes into my funnel, it comes into my CRM. Almost everything's done automatically for me, so that I can focus on what I'm good at.
Yeah, awesome. And I think that there's a couple of things to look at here. So one is, there's AI and there's automation. And I think at times we get them mixed up, and people have been on the call before, hear me talk about this a lot, that like, one of the things you potentially want to do is first just AI enable yourself and then automate your AI processes. And the reasoning that I have for that is that so let's say you just try to do automation right off the bat and then try to do AI and automation really quickly, right? So it's like, okay, hey, I have all of these emails that are coming in, and I want AI to auto respond to them, right? And that sounds great. I'm wasting a lot of time sending out these emails. First, I would use AI to generate the responses and still do everything by hand. And the reasoning is because, as we mentioned at the top, AI is going to be wrong. And that's just an inherent aspect of what we're asking AI to do. A lot of what it's doing is an educated statistical guess on what it thinks the right answer is. And you can put in steps to make that guess better and better and better as you go. But and then also just getting some of these projects off the ground can take time, right? So, but using AI tools is usually fairly quick to get that started. Automating those AI tools to do everything correctly and not have too many errors in them, that's going to take a longer amount of time. And so what I suggest for a lot of these things is, say in that instance, have AI write the email, but then you still send it off, right? And that would decrease the amount of time that you're spending responding to these emails, right? Because now AI is writing them for you. Now it's not perfect where you've got it down to a 0%, amount of work because you're still sending the emails, but you're staying human in the loop. You're getting insight into how the AI is writing these emails, how you might want to change the prompting for it, and really fine-tuning that and not putting too much overhead on yourself to automate an entire process. And then now that you're saving all that time from having AI do the work, now you can start investing time in having automation automate the AI work you're doing. And I think that where people sometimes go wrong is that they try to automate a process that they haven't vetted at all yet. And then there's just two different sort of things that are clashing with them, right? Where now they have to deal with AI issues and automation issues at the same time. And instead of getting some amount of productivity from the AI at first, they're getting no productivity because they're trying to do AI and automation at the same time. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. And I'm already using AI for a lot of my responses, but I'm vetting those responses and fine tuning those before they go to clients. So I totally agree with you.
And then the overwhelming part, everybody on this call, I think for the most part will agree with that aspect that I get overwhelmed by AI, and I've been, I built my first neural network over 20 years ago, and the AI that comes out now is still overwhelming to me. I know some of the people on our calls, have just started their AI journey, where it's like a month ago they started using ChatGPT, and being in that position, there's just so much that is coming at you. But as you said, a lot of it is noise, right? I feel like the signal is getting stronger and stronger lately as some of these companies are developing better and better tools. And part of it wasn't necessarily noisy as much as it was just overhyped and underdeveloped, right? Where, I always use this example of the image generators, where one of my first sort of introductions and use cases for Gen AI was image generation. I was like, oh, these are super cool. But I look back at all the image generation work I was doing early on, and it was, a lot of it was for fun or to like create something that looked cool, but just didn't have real like commercial appeal because we couldn't generate images that had a logo in them properly or text in them, or it was really tough to get the characters you wanted, or these different things. And then now with Nano Banana and ChatGPT's image generator, you can now set up a system where you are generating images that feasibly could be used in a lot of advertising scenarios, right? And so some of it is, getting in on the ground floor with some of these tools while they're developing, looking at and seeing the future of them, and realizing that it's good to play around with them now, but like where will they be in the future? And again, I think right now the image generation aspect is really there and is productive and possible. Video generation still needs a little bit more help, although the image generation is working a lot there. And the same thing with like LLMs are really great. Agentic systems, we still probably have a lot of work to do before we can build, really good agentic systems consistently and sustainably. But what I always tell people is try to have, allot your AI and automation time. Spend 80% of the time working on tools that you've already vetted and know that work and are doing things for you that are productive. Then the other 20% of the time, spend on new shiny objects where you want to test out and see what those are like, and really try to maintain that ratio. The problem is when we start flipping it and we're spending 80% of our time messing around with new AI tools and only 20% of the time using it for productivity and using like our bread and butter tools that are actually helping us do things. And that's just really procrastinating, right? That's a version of AI procrastination and not really doing what we're supposed to. But this is overwhelming. There are a lot of shiny objects. Hopefully, as I say, like one of the good things about being on these coaching calls is that people suggest tools that work for them, and it's not just social media ads for a tool that overhypes and underdelivers.
Do you have a list of vetted productivity AI tools that you use on a regular basis, and what the applications of those tools are that you can share with us?
So probably terrible at this. Let me think of just like some things. So a lot of what I do is I use Claude a lot for a lot of different things. Claude and ChatGPT get me pretty far on a lot of stuff. But then I also like using Gamma. If you're familiar with Gamma, that can do a little bit more like PowerPoint presentations and things like that. Both ChatGPT and Claude will tell you that they will do PowerPoint presentations, and they lie. They're terrible at them. But Gamma is really good at it. And then from there, what was I going to say? Nano Banana is my image editor of choice. It can be a little bit tricky. You do need to figure out a way to like get a good version of Nano Banana Pro and for you to be able to utilize it. You can set up, if you can get a free Google Cloud account, and they'll let you use like $300 of Nano Banana for free in that Google Cloud account. However, you can't, as far as I know, get API access and set up your own system of it, but you can use their interface. However, that interface kind of sucks. It'll basically, you have to restart it after every 1 or 2 pictures you generate. There are companies that will let you connect to Nano Banana and they'll charge you. It definitely won't be a lot of times free for $300. And then video generation. Lately, I've been really liking Luma and Ray 3 for video gen. I should get into pricing. I don't know how cost effective it is. Kling is really cool. The biggest issue with Kling, and it depends on what your use case is, Kling has no data security or gives you any necessarily right to your IP. They can just steal your IP and do whatever they want with it. And so for video generation, I know people like Kling, and if you're doing stuff and you don't really care about it, then go for it. But if you have anything where you have clients, content, and IP is an issue, do not use Kling at all. Like they're not even trying to tell you that they'll do anything to help you out there. And then when it comes to voice generation, 11 Labs, I think is the gold standard for voice generation. And then that's just, I'm trying to think. Those are a lot of the things I've been using. As I said, I'm going to start checking out anti-gravity and seeing how that works. GitHub Copilot, we've been testing that out, has been pretty useful, although I still find myself using Claude to code a lot of my stuff. And that's like it. I don't know. Other people have tools that they really like to use. Oh, Notebook LM. Notebook LM is great. It's a really easy way to start using things. Jean-Marc, you threw out Replicate. What do you like to use Replicate for? You, Jean-Marc?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, what's up?
I'm good, thank you. Replicate, because there's a lot of option for video, audio tools, and it's a big marketplace to have all media. It's like open router, but for media.
What is the pricing on it any good? So I think that's what I've started to notice is all these different services will do this, but which one has the good prices?
I don't know. It's convenient to have everything on the same roof.
Right. Yeah. Now that's one of the things that does make it easier is using something like Replicate, or we were using Fall before. I know that there's another service that's less expensive. There's also Higgsfield. There's a bunch of different services where they make it easy for you to get basically image and video generation. Some of them I feel like you can get a pretty good deal on, and then like because they're getting a good deal on their credits to use for this, then others are more expensive than just going to the source. Cool. Well, good to have you, Steve. Thank you, Jean-Marc. And then Kevin. Kevin, are you new? If you want, you can turn on your mic or drop something in the chat or...
Yes, I'm new. Do you hear me?
I can hear you.
So, yeah, I'm from Switzerland, and I just looking forward to have a look in the call. Yeah.
Great. What kind of AI are you interested in? What kind of tools are you using?
I use for my customers now most of the time automations for social media part. Yeah, that means, for example, my automations create a text for the images for my clients. This part is really interesting for me, and to learn also about how I can be more professional and probably can increase the quality of the automations. Yeah.
Cool. How are you doing your automations? Are you doing them through N8N? Are you?
I want to change to N8N, but I do it always now with Make, because my clients had some Make workflows. Yeah. But I think in future I have to switch to N8N.
For sure. Well, with that, happy to have you here. Let's get to our social media automation that we're going to be working on today. Let me share screen. I'll do a quick overview, and then we'll see how this next portion goes. So we were doing this originally in Claude, and we haven't gotten too far into it, but essentially what we were looking for is a Python-based system that would do auto-commenting on Instagram posts, right? And I wanted to break this up into 3 separate scripts. I'm not having this be as, as complex as some of the other projects you'll see. And partially it's because this one already has a level of complexity, which is we're dealing with social media platforms, and those have difficulty. Now, as we always have to point out when we're working on this project, this is frowned upon by the social media platforms. As you can see here, Instagram aggressively fights automation. It explicitly prohibits automated collection of content and automated interactions. They employ sophisticated detection. So then these are some of the detections that they use for this process. However, I feel like with a lot of stuff in AI and automation, there is, there's always some risk involved, but that just means that you need to plan for that risk and do what you can for it. And so one of the things for this type of project, what I would suggest is, because we're doing something that is gray hat, you would say, not totally black hat, definitely not white hat, is that use a dummy account, not your main Instagram account, to test it all out, and then potentially just continue using that dummy account along with your regular account as you're doing it, and basically have that be the canary in the coal mine, right? Where if something starts going wrong, your dummy account has been leading this practice by like 2 weeks essentially. And so if it gets, banned or gets a warning, then you'll see that, and then you can slow down whatever you're doing and not risk your actual account. However, I used the similar system on LinkedIn and did not run into any issues at all. No issues from LinkedIn. There's definitely issues with building it. And what I'll say is, with this, with many things in life, moderation is the key. Your biggest problem with this project is that if you're like, oh, this is great, this is auto commenting on 50 posts a day, let's go from 50 posts to 5,000 posts. And that's when you will get banned. But if you start out slow and you're doing, 10 posts that you're commenting on a day, and then, over a month or two, ramp that up to maybe 50, and it's doing it at, it's not 50 all at once, instantaneously, but it's like 50 throughout a day, and it's like an automated process, then, then you'll have something that is most likely not going to get you in trouble, and is going to make an impact. The reason why I suggest doing this is that, building your social media platform can be profitable, right? It'd be great. It is going to take time. And one of the things that can help you grow your social media is commenting on other people's posts, on other people's social media. Because is it possible to create a second account on LinkedIn? Yes, it is possible to create a second account on LinkedIn. You use a different email address and use a different name and a different whatever, and then a different picture, like generating a profile picture is pretty easy in the current AI climate. And then you may need to do a little bit of work on that to begin with. And so, like, I have a lot of I actually have I have multiple LinkedIn accounts that I use for a variety of things. Go right ahead, Kevin. What would you like to ask?
Sorry for interrupting.
Everybody can interrupt whenever.
My question is now about LinkedIn. I have a lead, and he is interested to automate the first message when a new connection, when he has a new connection on LinkedIn. And I think for me it's a bit too risky to try it first with no experience with his main account. Do you think I should try it before with the test account also?
Yeah. That's what I would do. That's how I built mine. I did not build mine on my main account. For this reason, that I knew that it was possible to get banned. And for sure, I will tell you from experience, LinkedIn, you can build an automation system for anything on LinkedIn. You're going to run into some of the same issues that we're going to run into here, which is you need to interact with their website, and they're going to kind of hide the buttons or hide the ways that you can enter in text or things like that, but you can always find ways into it. There's also, you need to have, you use a real email, but you can generate a real email account you can, if you want, you can just generate another another Gmail account. You can have multiple Gmail accounts, and just generate a new Gmail account. And I do think that it does potentially have an issue with you having way too many LinkedIn accounts on one IP address, maybe, but for sure you can have 2 LinkedIn accounts running off the same computer, use 2 different Gmail accounts. The one thing I would say is that what you should do when you create your new account is figure out what niche you kind of want that account to be in. So like you give that account some sort of like concept, right? Where like have ChatGPT write your bio for you, or like your work summary in the different companies you worked at. Potentially choose really big companies to work at, where you could just be like, yeah, I worked at Amazon for a while. I worked at, because they have like 1 million people who work there, so nobody would even know you don't work there. And again, like the footprint of this account is very small. People aren't really going to question it. And if you look at all the different things, all the different scams and things that people are doing out there right now, what you're doing here is not even a drop in the bucket or a blip on anybody's radar. And then go through and add some connection. This might take you 10 minutes to an hour, something like that. Just go through, find people, connect with them, just, click connect, do a bunch of them, get yourself some number of connections just to start. Go again, Kevin.
Sorry, yeah.
Now you can just interrupt me. You can be like, hey, I have a question.
My question is, what do you think, when is the account proved or the system proved that it works and not got banned in the future?
So I just try to do it like 2 weeks in advance, right? And so let it run for 2 weeks. And then, but keep letting it run afterwards. Like have it always be, a step ahead of your other account. And so that you can sort of get a good sense of whether or not there's an issue there. And then and then after a while, I kind of didn't even care. Like for my LinkedIn one, after like a month or two, I just didn't even because there was no issue. There was nothing wrong. And then especially the way that we're doing it here, right? Where it's like, I want everybody to be safe, and the safest way is to work on a dummy account, especially while you're building. Because when you're building, you can have more issues. But once you get this dialed in, essentially you're creating a system that will log in, that will move the mouse around in a human-like way, that'll have random motions in it, that will comment with real comments that make sense and type out the comments instead of just like copying and pasting them in automatically, and do about, again, 10 at a time, maybe 15 at a time, over 20 minutes. You put in delays. It's very difficult for them to realize that you're AI at that point, right? Because you're doing so many things that like a normal human would actually do. How could they possibly figure out that you're AI, right? If you are moving your cursor like a human, typing like a human, going at a human speed, putting in responses that a human would respond like. And then there's a certain point where it's like, well, what if you were the human who was doing all this stuff and then you were having ChatGPT help you write some of your responses, right? Like at a certain point in time, it's like, where is the division between human and automation, right? But if you are doing 500 comments in an hour and all your comments are the exact same thing, yes, they will ban you. Like that is a very quick way of doing it. Doing it this other way, where you're using best practices, will be much better. Go for it.
And what do you think, or what is your experience? How many requests, especially on LinkedIn, are possible in a day? So at maximum 30, do you think, or is it more also possible?
So comments or friend requests. So they have a limit already. Like they will limit you to the amount that you can do, and they do their limits a weekly limit essentially. And they will not really, like you could sit there, and this is the thing where I see more like automation myself than my actual automations do. But when I am looking to build up my connections, especially when I'm in a time when I'm trying to find more business or look for more work, or I'm just like have time, I'll just hit the weekly limit every week. And like they'll suggest connections to me. I'll just connect with all these people. And, but I think that the two things in concert work really well together, which is connecting and also commenting on the posts that you're seeing. And so doing these connections is great, but then also having an auto commenter. And the connecting is pretty quick. You could also create a system that'll auto connect for you. But for me, I was finding that it's like, yeah, to do the connections, I could probably max out the number of connections that they'll allow me to do in a week by doing it for like 10 minutes a day, every day. Whereas to do the doing 50 thoughtful comments about people's AI LinkedIn posts, finding all of those and then commenting on them, that was going to take hours and hours. And that's why I decided to automate that process. Okay. So as this is doing, it's walking me through all the different things. And I respond that, hey, we're going to do 10 comments a day. We'll use Playwright and Selenium. And then I told them I'm using not my main account, but like another account. And this is a step that I think that you should do if you're vibe coding any of these projects, is propose the idea, ask like, what are the issues here? What's going on? Start like just have a conversation with your LLM initially before you jump right in, and like get a sense of what you're actually building, why. If you have any questions or if it's saying anything, you're like, I don't really know what that means. Explain that to me. Like this is kind of one of the cool things about this, is that as you're doing this, you can sort of learn as you go. And if you ever have a question, you have something that has all the answers in the world for you. Okay. And so, and then it asked me some questions here about what I want to do. And so the system that we're coming up with essentially is, again, so this is a 3 file system. And this is similar to how I did my LinkedIn thing, which was you want to first extract all your posts. Then you want to analyze and generate your comments, and then you want to post your comments. You can eventually do this so that like these 3 things are running in parallel, essentially, so that it extracts the information, it analyzes that information, and then posts, and then goes on to the next one. Boom, 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 boom. If you're doing a low number, it doesn't really matter. And part of the reason to do it this way is that you have these 3 different roles that you want. One is to pull the actual content. One is to analyze it and respond to it, and the other one's to actually post. Each one of these are going to have different issues. 1 and 3 are the hardest, and they're not hard as much as, like the LLM is going to do most of the work. Really, the issue is that both of these have to interact with your social media platform of choice, either Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, whatever you're going to have. And that is going to be a little bit more complicated. And again, you will be able to get through it if you put in the time, but they are putting in different tricks and systems to make that difficult for you. The analyze content part is a little bit simpler because once you have the information, you're just running it through a VLM. The one thing here, though, is that with these 2, once you get them working, they're working and you're good. This one you are going to do a little bit more fine tuning on because the posts, you want the comments to be good and genuine, and that's the other reason why I break these up into steps. So it's like you extract the information, you analyze, and you generate the posts. Then you can go and you can read what the comments are and see if there are any that are off color, that don't make sense, where if it's getting too repetitive. And then you can go in and like manually change them a little bit if you want, and then just have it post those new updated comments that you have, and then take that, go back to your LLM, get it to change your prompting for how you're generating your comments. John Mark, go for it.
Yes, in your workflow, maybe it will be accurate to analyze the profile of the person who's writing the post. You study the post, and you analyze the profile. So you are accurate on the sector, the experience, and this kind of things. So it's less spammy, it's specific.
Yeah, that's a good idea. On LinkedIn, I feel like there isn't too much profile information that people have. I think it can be useful. I would say on something, or on Instagram. On Instagram, there isn't much. On LinkedIn, there is a lot of profile information, and you can possibly pull a lot more from there. And it's interesting, like what I was originally building my LinkedIn commenter for was, my idea was, when I first started doing it, was that like a way of doing marketing, right? Because like if you just go and you email people or you try and you cold call them, people hate that, right? And so my idea was, okay, well, instead what I'll do is I'll find these companies that I'm interested in working with, and I'll comment on the content that these companies are putting out, or that the people at the company are putting out. And then that way I'll have like an in, and maybe I could start up a conversation with them, and then they'll see that I'm knowledgeable, and then they'll want to work with me. That was a terrible idea. Again, this is part of the process of working on these projects, right? Where it's like, you'll think, oh, this makes so much sense, right? Like cold calling sucks, cold emails aren't really working. What I'll do is I will comment on these people's LinkedIn posts. The reason why that idea was terrible was that people don't post on LinkedIn like that. Most people that work at a job are not posting about what they're doing at that job, or like have like interesting things to say about what they're doing at that company. All these companies that you potentially want to network with not posting things, their people aren't posting things, there's just not much there to cling on to. But I had built out a lot of the pieces to this, and so then I shifted it over to, no, here, just help me build my LinkedIn profile. And then really what I was doing was I was getting interest from different people with different companies. It wasn't the target companies that I had, but it was still beneficial to me. And it's just like, just shifted my project a little bit. It on some level did what I wanted to do. It wasn't as direct, but again, when you're building out these projects, you may run into the same thing, which is another reason why I say, don't just start automating at first, build out. And this is a little bit of both, right? Because there's aspects of automation here, but sort of testing out little pieces of it to see if it makes any sense. And that was part of my upfront test, was even testing to see, are there people, are they even posting? Does this make any sense? But then I just shifted things. But I agree with your original point, Jean-Marc, that like there can be profile information. I would say, again, it's maybe more useful on something like LinkedIn than Instagram, but it also depends on what you're doing with Instagram and why you're commenting. If this is more professional, then you maybe want some of that professional information that people are using in their Instagram posts. The other one that is possibly going to show up here is that I ran into this on LinkedIn, and it was something I had to do in my comment extract, or the post extracting filtering. A lot of these social media platforms have advertising on them, right? And so you don't really want to be commenting on people's LinkedIn ads. Like, that's not really going to do much for you. And so part of my system was, it was filtering out the ads, and it did a pretty good job of filtering out the ads for the most part. And we might need to run into that here in our project. Okay,
in conclusion, the goal of the tool is to have a better visibility, because it was not to go direct to people. So it's the way it's have a better distribution of the view of your profile. It's something like that.
Yeah. So this is to help you grow your profile, and you can make connections with this. I think that, but like, if you try to do this and you go, and Instagram might be a little bit better, because people who are posting on Instagram, like, that is their purpose on here, potentially. The thing I was saying is that, like, if you try to do this and really target specific like companies or people who work at those companies, it may not work for you as well. If you're like, hey, this is a great way for me to connect. Like, hey, I really want to start working with Bazooka Joe LLC, right? It's like, here, let me go and I'll have this find the Bazooka Joe LLC posts and all the people who work there, and it'll auto comment on their posts, and they are not going to post enough. And even if you're like, here, I have 100 companies like that, they still, all 100 companies, you may not get enough posts from them to make this worthwhile. And then really what it is you find that, like, okay, there's people within my niche, AI and automation. Let me make sure that I am filling up my feed with people who are going to be doing that by either comment or connecting with or following those people. And then so that your feed is has those people in it. And then you use this, and this will grow your visibility. It'll grow your account. It'll help you form connections. But it is, as you're saying, it's not as direct. It's a little bit more subtle, and it may take longer. But like, once you've built this, I promise you, if you let this thing run, I know it sounds like a long time, for like 2 years, you will see a definite benefit. And not even just like, oh yeah, like now I have 10 more followers. Like, no, like, you will grow your entire LinkedIn presence by having this run. And the good thing about automation and AI is, once you have this up and going, it doesn't cost that much. You will have to pay for a little bit of LLM usage, but then it's just doing all the work for you. And so, setting up little systems like this can help you grow with very little effort.
Perfect.
Cool. Okay. And so basically what it is doing, I wanted to only do single image posts. That was like one of the questions it had. And then this is something that I really like to do. This is my own little thing that I figured out when I'm vibe coding. So this is something, if you're doing like what I'm doing here, where I'm using an interface to do it, and you're not like doing something right in the IDE, have it create a setup script that will set up files with stems and folders and examples for config, and JSON, etc., and the actual, as well as the actual code content. So this just makes things really fast to get your project off the ground. Essentially, you have this back and forth. You kind of establish, yes, this is how we're going to do it, and then you tell it to create a setup script. So that what this does is, I used to not do this, and then one time it suggested it, and I was like, yeah, sure, go for it. I was like, oh, this is great, because it's going to generate all these different files. You're going to have to like save them, copy and paste, set up folders, save new files. Like, it might take you an hour to just set up the project. And it's like, oh, dude, here, just create a setup script for me. You do all the work, and then I'll just run the setup script. So that's this one, setup project. And then it just created all of these files for me, created the folder structure. And then this first one is the one that we're working on. Fully implemented it. And so then boom, we have that setup script, and I think maybe it did a bunch of these things. And then this is the code that I just copied and pasted into the files that it generated. These are the ones that we needed for it to start. And it has this one human behavior one that adds the human behavior, like the typing, and the randomization of what it's doing. So then running this to oh yeah, and then the one question I do have for it, when it creates these setup scripts, it doesn't really matter, but like, should I run this setup script in the folder that I've created, or will it create the folder that everything's going to run in? And they just figured that out for us. And so then we created all that. You are going to have to do a virtual environment. You can just ask it what that is. And then once you do your VNV, you can install everything in your requirements text, and then boom. So then we started testing this thing out, and it had a predictable issue, which I brought up before, which is that like the script works pretty well when it first started. The issue is that it's not pulling, for this portion, it's not pulling the information that we need. That like, instead of grabbing the actual like content of their posts, what they wrote, instead, let me see if I can pull one of them up, the extracted images. And so extracted posts. So, okay, yeah. So right here for caption, it's getting the author, which is correct. Post ID is fine. I think it's just assigning that ID itself. Oh, no, that's the ID from the URL. But it's two separate issues. One, so you can see this is the author, and then this is the part at the bottom where it says like, I think it's like who likes it, or like who helped make it. So, or no, yeah, it's like who. So like this one, there's the author, and that's like the actual account that it's from. But then if you look at the bottom of an image on Instagram, it'll also like have the author's name again, and then like who else, if they did like a co-post. And so it's pulling that instead of the caption. And then the same thing, when it's extracting the image, instead of pulling the actual image from the post, it is pulling their profile image, which is not what we want. But, it's working-ish, and the other thing that we are going to have to do, I think probably, is make sure that it's not pulling the same post over and over again. And that's another step. Like once you get this off the ground, I would say once this part is working, that's the next part, which is like creating a little bit of a database so that it can track them by post ID essentially, and just make sure that you're not commenting on the same post over and over and over again. And so that'll be one of our next steps. Oh, but we are out of time. So we got to do our review. Next week, I will advance this a little bit, and then we can get to that. What I'll try to do is make sure that we are actually pulling these posts, and I'll show you the debugging steps I went through for that. But yeah, this is the Instagram auto commenter. Still not totally working yet, but we will get it there. Thank you everybody for joining today. Have a great weekend, and